This is the result table from my cost effectiveness analysis that I want to have in my report or in my manuscript. I have different scenarios. I have the base case here with results for the golden drug and no treatment for different age categories. So the cost, the qualis, the incremental cost and qualis, and the ICER, and also information from the cost effectiveness acceptability curve, the SEAC. So I have from a willingness to pay of 250,000 Swedish crowns, 500,000 and 750,000 crowns. I have the probability of cost effectiveness for the golden drug compared to no treatment. These three data points give some information about the shape of the curve. I could have the whole curve as well, but then it would mess up my table, so I've chosen to only have 3 points on the curve that gives enough information to describe the curve. So that was the base case, but then I want the scenario analysis when I don't discount qualis. I will discount cost with 3%, but qualis with 0%. And then again the same results for that scenario. And finally I want the scenario with a healthcare payer perspective, so no productivity losses and no consumption except for healthcare consumption, and again the same kind of results for this scenario. And this is a lot of information and it takes a lot of time to create this table, and my experience is that you end up doing this table over and over again, maybe 5-10 times, in extreme cases 20 or 30 times. Every time you change an input you need to update the whole table. And maybe it would take 1 hour, 2 hours to update this table. You have to set the scenario, pick out the results, copy paste, then you have to run the probabilistic sensitivity analysis, pick the results, change the age category, do the same again, and maybe this PSA takes 5 minutes to run every time. So you end up maybe with 1 hour to update this table. And now in this video I will show how we will write a macro that will do this automatically for us. So instead of doing all the changes and copy and pasting the results, we will just press play and it will fill in automatically. If it takes a lot of time to run the macro, we can do it overnight, and in the morning we have our table ready. And then we just copy the table from Excel to Word like this. So let's make a new sheet. Result table. And again, row height 11, view no grid lines, and size 9. So I had golden drug and no treatment. I had costs, qualis, incremental cost and qualis, and ICER. Then I should have these 3 points from the SEAC. Probability of cost effectiveness at willingness to pay SEK per quali. And this was the base case scenario. Base case. So let's color this gray. Black, bold, and oh, I forgot this. Center. And we add some lines too. Is this okay? Yeah. So maybe move this one to here. I can skip this. Incremental, I will merge. Center, ICER, okay, these two should be over here. and they disappeared. Ah, okay, they're just not centered. I will merge these three and merge these three. Oh yeah, we need the age category as well. We had 40 to 49 years, 40 years to 49 years, and then maybe we move back this one. And I merge these as well. And we add some lines to it. Center these two. Costs, qualities. And should we have maybe, yeah, this should be, I merge and center these. All of them. And I just give them all borders like this. And maybe keep this to the right. Base case, delete. Okay, and let's just see how numbers would look here. We want these in, how do I have the rest? Okay, I have it like this. Okay. So let's add here. Sec. But I want to have 1,000 separator at least. Number and center. Qualies. Center with 2 decimal places. Costs again. Opla. This should be like this and centered, and this should be the same for the ISER, and this should be not the same here. This one should have 2 decimal places. Costs again is Swedish crowns, and ISER SEK per collie. And here we should have percent. Maybe with 1 decimal place. So now we have the formats correct. And then I just copy this and just change the age category. So 50 years to 59 years. And I want to check that this is what we have. 59, 69, yeah. $60 to 69 years. And above equals 70. This one. Okay, base case. Now I delete all these. And let's see. Okay, then we just add 1 row. Like that. This one. And we say discounting collies 0%. That's the next scenario. And I copy this. And then the last scenario, healthcare payer perspective. Okay, so this is the table we should update with results automatically and then just copy to Excel. Next step is to write the macro. So I go to Developer Visual Basics. I could also press Alt F11 and I go there directly. Here we have our old code. This was the PSA. And I will write this code below this one. Close this. So down here automatic result table, and I got the end sub automatically. So the structure we will have is that we will set the scenario 1. The first one will be base case. For this scenario we should first make the settings. The first time will be nothing, just make sure we have societal perspective, discounting 3% and so on. Then I should define a reference row, because I'm going to do this in 2 macros. The first macro will just make the settings and assign a reference row. So in the first case will be 7. Then the second macro, given the settings and this reference row, will give the results for all the age categories, because that job will be the same for each scenario. So I make the settings for the scenario, give the reference cell, run this stuff, reset, go to next scenario, make the settings, reference cell, run the second macro, and so on. Otherwise I will have to write this code for running the results over and over again, and it will be exactly the same code every time. So define a reference row, and then run all age categories. Call a macro to do that, and then reset, restore settings. And then scenario 2, scenario 1 is base case. Scenario 2, discounting qualis 0%, and we will do exactly the same thing. And scenario 3 is the healthcare payer perspective. So this is the structure of the main macro, and we could start with just making the settings and make that work. So I need also a variable for the reference row. I will call it dim ref row as integer. It will be a number. The first time it will be 7, then 16, and then 25. So make settings, scenario 1, no settings, reference row, ref row equal 7 the first time. Then I will run this and restore, nothing to restore. Next one, I will change the discounting of the qualis. So I need to change this variable here, 3%. I have to change it to 0%. So I will use a new variable here, dim old disk rate qualis as double. And this variable here was called disk rate effects. So first I will just make the settings. I will use this disk rate, old disk rate qualis equals range. So whatever is in there from the beginning, I will store in this variable. Range disk rate effects. I'm looking up here what's the name of the variable. So now we have stored the old discount rate. And then we put in the new one, range, disk rate effects equals 0. And then to restore down here, we just set it to be this variable. So then it will be as in the beginning. Okay. And then finally, healthcare payer perspective. The settings here would be to change. It's this drop down and it goes here to variable model type. This, no, sorry, to here. Variable perspective should be switched to 1. So range perspective equal 1, and when we restore it, it will equal 2 again. 2. I forgot the reference row here. So this will be row 16. Ref row equals 16, and down here ref row will equal 25. Okay, so I'll just run this first part and check that it's working. I save before I do anything else. So F8, ref row 7, nothing special. Alright, so old disk rate should now be 3%. Yes, and the new one should be 0. Let's see if that happened. Yeah, now we have results for a 0% discount rate on Qualys. And we're gonna have the ref row 16 and then restore. And now check that it's again 3%. Yeah, so we leave it as it was when we came to it. And now switch perspective. It's societal perspective. When I switch this one, it should change to healthcare payer. Yes, ref row 25 and change back to societal. Yeah, so the main macro seems to work. Now next thing is to write the macro for this one. The macro for running all the H categories and printing the results to the right places will be a function that will be called for each scenario. So it will be the same code used over and over again. And I will write this function down here. Function function, and the name will be run H categories, and we will send with it the reference row as an integer. Let's see if this works. Yes, so we got the end function automatically. So now we need to concentrate. What's gonna happen here? First, we need to declare some variables. We need to store the cost, the qualis, the ISR, and so on. Then we need to set the H category. First, it's going to be 40 to 49, then 50 to 59, and so on. Then, for each H category, we have to first store the deterministic results. That will be the first part here, the cost, qualis, incremental, and ISR. Then we need to run the PSA, and from the PSA we need to pick, we need to store the values from the SEAC, store prob from SEAC, 3 of them. And then we need to print the results to the table, then go to next H category. So we're going to loop this 4 times within this function. So we will send the ref row. It will be 7 the first time we call this function. It will be 16 the second time and 25 the third time. And when we get this reference row, the settings will be done already, so we just run through the results we change the 8 categories and we run the PSA. So let's just fill in this stuff here. Declare variables. What do we need? We need dim costs golden drug as double, dim collies golden drug as double, dim costs no treat as double, dim collies no treat as double. Then we need dim incremental costs as double, dim incremental collies as double, dim icer as double. And then we need the 3 SEAC points, dim SEAC to 50 as double, dim SEAC 500,000 as double. What did I do? Oh, as double, and dim SEAC 750 as double. Okay, this is what we need. I will also dim e as integer. Maybe we don't need to define this one or declare this one like this. So that was the first part. I think this is all we need. And here we need to set the H category, and this will be within a loop. And we need to loop 4 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, but we have to add to the reference column 2 for each loop. So the first time we print the results, it's going to start here, 7. For next H category, 9, 11, 13. So we're going to make a loop that jumps 2 steps for each loop instead of 1. So for I equals 0 to 0246, and it's gonna be step 2. This will be 4 loops. First time 0, then it goes to 2, and then 4, and then 6, and then it should stop. So this is the loop we have, and let's make some if statements here, because when I is 0, we're gonna do the first H category. When I is 2, we're gonna do the second one. 4, the third, 6, the fourth. So if I equals 0, then we're gonna set the H category to the first one, and we're gonna use this cell. And I see here it has no name, so I will add a name. When we change this one, the start age changes. So it's this variable here we want to control. So I call it control H group. Then range control H group should be 1. And I copy this. So if it's 2, 4, 4, and 6. This will be 2, 3, 4. I will check this. I could check this already now, see that it works. I want to check if this works, just the first part. So I noticed that I couldn't press F8 directly here in the function, so I will have to call it from here, and the code for that is call and then the name run h categories, and I will send with it the ref row. This should work. So I try my main macro, ref row is 7. I call this function, jumps down here, it will declare the variables. And now let's see if the h groups change as we wish. Now I is 0, it should be 1. Then it will skip this, do whatever we want to do here. Then next I. Now I will be 2, because we have step 2. And this should be changed to number 2 here. Here we go, start h55, then skip, skip, next I. 3, yes, skip, and finally 4. And should we restore to the first one? No, never mind, we'll leave it like this and function. Okay, then I just stop. So the first part worked. Set the H category, this should be up here. And then when we have chosen the H category, we want to store the deterministic results. So we're gonna use all these costs, golden drug equal, and we had variables for that. Down here we have total costs golden drug. This is the name we're gonna use. Range total costs golden drug, and I would like to see where I have that one in my model. Is it here? No, it's on the sheet, this sheet, but here I see I will copy this text instead, so I'm sure I don't misspell. And we have costs no treat. This one. Then we have collies golden drug equal range. This. And then similar cost collies no treat. This one. Okay. Then incremental costs equals cost golden, yeah, cost golden drug minus cost no treat. Incremental collies, did I spell it correctly? Yeah. This will equal collies old drug minus collies no treat. ICER equals, yes, costs divided by the collies. So this is the deterministic results, and once we have these stored, we can print them in our table. And let's run the macro again and see that this works. So I go up here, first I save. Go to my main macro, Okay, so now we'll have the first age category, yeah, and these are the results to be stored. So cost golden drug 456, yes. No treat 435, yes. Qualis 1637 or 38, yeah. No treat 1582. Incremental costs 212, yes. Qualis 055 and the ICER 381, yeah. So it was picking the right results and storing to the right variables. Next step is to run the PSA, and we already have that macro. That was the PSA here. So I think we could just write PSA like this. Or do we have to write call or run? Let's check what happens. I test the main macro again. We come down here. We store the results. And then we come here. And it jumps to the PSA. So it will run the whole PSA, including the SEAC for the settings, the H category in this case. So I press stop. And so it will run, and then we need to store the results. And I will give some names to the results. Let's see. So what we want to have is 250,000. It's this one. Make it bold. So I'm gonna call this SEAC 250. And we want 500,000. SEAC 500 and 750. And that's all we need from the PSA. So store results, these are the variables. Equals range, and then I had the same name. $500, 750, and 750. I could check this, that it's actually working. So again, I go to the main macro, I come down here, store the results. I will skip the PSA and go directly to pick up the results. And the results should be 14%, where is 500, 70% and 90%. So let's see if I get, something didn't work. Range SEAC 250. Double. What did I call it? I didn't enter the name there. So maybe I didn't press enter properly. So now let's go back and we try again. Now it worked. 14%, 70% and 90%. So the correct SEAC values are stored. So finally we want to print the results, and now we need to be careful because this could be a bit messy. First we need to go to the sheet result table, because when we were running the PSA, for example, we were working on other sheets. So even though we start the macro here, we will end up on other sheets during the macro, and maybe the PSA will leave us on sheet simulation or even sheet start page probably. So we need to go back to sheet result table, select, and now we want to print the costs. So let's start with the cost for the golden drug, and now we will use this variable, the reference row. So for the first each category we should have it in the same cell as the reference row. So let's add some numbers here. 1, 2. Did I set it? Yeah, so the column is 5. These are the columns. And the reference row should be 7. So cells, first one should be ref row, that was the name, right? Reference row plus I is 0 the first time, but then it will be 2 and jump down here, then 4 and then 6. So, and it will always be column 5, and value equals the cost golden drug, Then I'll do the same for the cost no treat, will be the same but plus 1. So we will start with the reference row, jump down 1 row. This is where the cost for the no treatment will enter. First here, then jump down 2, 4, 6. Then we have the qualis. I will again start with the reference row 5 but column 6. And we want the qualis. So this will be this one the first time, correct? And then I add plus 1 row to do it for no treat. Then we have the incremental costs. So and now I merge those cells, but I hope it will work with the row 7, column 7. So it will be ref row plus I 7 incremental costs. Column 8 incremental qualis, and column 9 we have the ICER. And then finally we have these, the probabilities. So this will be column 9, 10, 11 and 12. So column 10, 11 and 12, and it will be these variables. Okay, so row 7 the first time plus I, and will jump down by 2, these values, and this will need to be checked. So let's try the macro again. First I save. Alright, we have row ref 7. We come down here. We will start with this start age, the first one. Store results, run the PSA, which I will skip. Store these results. And now let's see, I will be on another sheet. We go back to this sheet, it worked. And we start printing the results. Let's see, now I should get the costs here. for golden, cost for no treat. Qualis, incremental worked, incremental qualis. I sir was wrong. Yes, this should be 9. So I go back, incremental qualis, and the ISER came now in the correct cell. Then 14% should be 70% and 90%. Worked fine. Let's see if this works now with the loop. So now we go to the next H category, store the new results, run the PSA, but I skipped that, so these will be identical just in this test. And now we should have the costs here in this cell. Yes. Golden drug, yes. So it jumps by 2. And the third time, store results. Oh, now I start to run the PSA. Yeah. So I just go to the end of it. So now the cost should appear here. Yes. And finally, the last H category, store the results, skip PSA. Yes, they enter in the correct cells. And then go to next H category. This is what we're doing. So this function now seems to be working correctly. As long as we give the right reference row, 7, then 16 and 25, we should get all the results updated automatically. So let's see if we can clean this up a bit. I don't need to write this. Run PSA. Looks okay. Let's finish this. So scenario 1, base case. No settings ready for this. Call this one. Restore settings, nothing. Scenario 2. We had the settings and we need to copy this part. Run this function. Scenario 3. Healthcare payer perspective. The reference row. Call this function. This should be it. And now I want to try the whole macro, but the first time I will not run 1000 iterations in the PSA because it will take a lot of time. So I will, when I test run, just run maybe 5 iterations and see if it works. So I delete this. I save. I will insert the button actually. Insert shape here and link this one to the let's see, edit text, run macro to update table, macro to update table. I center it and I will make this one no outline and maybe make it gray. Alright, now I can delete these numbers and I link this button to my macro automatic result table. Now I save. And I will go into my macro for the PSA and change to 5 iterations. Alright, so I don't save now and I just try to run the macro and see what happens. And I have the screen is not updating, of course. So I think it's running the PSA. So I notice here that, yeah, I switched to 5 loops in the first iteration, but now it's still running through all the 1000 printing the results. So I will break this and change this one to 5 too. Now I will rerun. So I double check. I changed the loop here to 5, where I did the, this is the random sampling, and then also here only 5 times printing the results. Let's see if it works now. Just to 5. Now it's running the SEAC, just to 5 again. Okay, now it stopped and it seems like it worked. I didn't run the PSA properly, but the whole macro was working. So now I will just change back to 1000 iterations and then run the macro for real. But this could take maybe half an hour to run, because every time I run the PSA it will take maybe 5-10 minutes. My computer is slow. So this is something I can do before I go to bed. I just press play, and then when I wake up I have the table all done. So I change back to 1000 and also here 1000. Now I save and I'm gonna press play and get the results. So here is the final table. It was quicker than I thought. It was just took about 20 minutes. So now I have the base case results, the results for discounting quality 0%, healthcare payer perspective, deterministic results, and results from the PSA. And now this whole table can just be copied to Word. So I take a new page. And I have the complete table already set for my report or manuscript.